That in at the same time. So before we even started that, we developed the animation where you could see it on top of the live action. And so, and also the aesthetic where you could actually see the aesthetics from social media and not just break it out like as a text, like a subtitle, but like see the way it was coming down, because it really felt like in this series, the media was the message.
I'm going to ask you a really nerdy, weird question. Were you following the reality of the timeline as you did those things?
That's one of the reasons the edit was so complicated, because the 5 episodes are each thematic and deal with like a different theme that I felt was kind of vitally important to cover from all of the experiences that they had and the things they talked about. But it's also chronological. So we start with the beginning of school and we end with graduation.
And they get into college. Oh my God, I went through that with my daughter. I had PTSD watching this. Sorry.
And so there were, you know, those kind of milestones like Christmas and all of that and college timing that we also had to respect. So it was an insane edit that took 2 years. But it was also a really fun, interesting process, and the editors were amazing, and it was very collaborative. And I think you know Joe Beanie, he was our supervising editor, and really also brought in fresh eyes. And I just kind of like did the whole thing. It wasn't like one of these series where different people do different episodes. Like I was with all the editors, and so I think we were able to really get a kind of aesthetic and style going through.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I want to go down the row here. We can start with you, Sydney, and then we'll just go right down. Tell us what you're doing now. Give us an update.
So I just graduated a couple days ago at NYU Film School. I'm a film major. I transferred from University of Arizona. I don't want to spoil too much from the show, but I've been working on several different films. I made a short independent film that I just submitted to 10 different film festivals, including Student Academy Awards. I'm in the process of, I just wrapped my thesis production. And I am looking now for a job and starting in the industry, so.
So do you think that working on this movie and participating in this movie shaped you in some way?
100%. I think that's part of the reason why I was drawn to the project in the first place, was because I was always interested in film. And Lauren came to my class, my film class, as a senior at Pali. And I was very intrigued. I had a story to tell. I didn't really have an outlet. I was going through the cyberbullying at the time, and so Lauren gave me this outlet to find my voice and find myself. And I definitely have come into myself throughout the process of this film.
I love that moment where you said, "I'm in college. This is so much better." Okay, go ahead, Marley.
Yeah, so I'm at Emory University currently in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm a rising senior. I'm so close to being done. I'm so excited. And then I leave on Saturday for an internship in New York. I'll be doing RPR. I'm really excited about it. So yeah.
And do you think that working on this, I mean, one of the things that struck me, and we can open this up for all of you now too, is just when the group of you got together in person, man, that was good. You must have felt it yourselves, yeah? And talk about that.
Yeah, the discussions were really special. It was a way for us to kind of like come together and build a community while working on this really like interesting and niche project that not other kids were doing in LA. And so I think it was nice to have each other to lean on and talk about what we're doing. We're all complaining about having to screen record our social media and like put all of our business out there, but it was really nice to talk in the discussions. It was a really good support system.
So was it a difficult decision to make, to have her, you know, open your lives up like that?
Yeah, I was really nervous at first when it came to opening up my life. The first time I filmed with Lauren, I was opening my Harvard decision day, and I did not get in, but it's okay. I'm living now. But yeah, so when I first filmed with Lauren, I was really nervous, especially doing something so vulnerable like opening up my college decision day acceptances or rejections. And I remember after filming with her being like, wow, that was really easy. Like, I went through all this emotional stress and drama, but Lauren was there with me and she guided me through it the whole time. She was asking all the correct questions to get me to open up, and I felt like I really went through it emotionally. So it was hard at first, but once Lauren is in the room with you, I feel like she really helps you through the process to open up.
You can see how empathetic, she is in those moments. Ella.
So I'm going into my final year at the University of Edinburgh in Scotland. I'm doing, thank you. I'm doing history of art and also film. Like Sydney, making my own films. I started my own production company with one of my friends over there, and I'm president of the Filmmaking Society. So really sticking with that filming path, as that's what I want to do.
And was it difficult for you to make the decision to open your life up?
Yeah, I feel like, again, like Sydney was saying, it came at a time, I remember when Lauren was zoomed into our film class and asked like everyone, like, what do you feel about social media? And I just felt like I had a lot to say because I had my own experience with it. So it felt like, again, like this is an outlet for it. And it was a process, always screen recording and like getting used to that, but you do scarily get used to it quite quickly and you almost forget that like your screen recording or that the cameras are there. So yeah, Lauren makes that really easy.
And you're standing up down there, Jonathan. Thank you for being a gentleman in this situation. So give us an update.
Sure. So I am also a senior in college. I'm currently at UC Santa Barbara, double majoring in film and psychology. And on that note about sharing our phones, I think it definitely took some time as we were getting used to. Same thing with cameras and a 10-person crew showing up at your house on the first day. But I think a lot of that was built on trust and trust with Lauren, and I think for most of us that developed really quickly because of Lauren's empathy and I think the salience of the project that she was working on.
So in those roundtable discussions, Jonathan, did you all feel like you were learning things and figuring things out that you maybe wouldn't have in any other context?
Absolutely. I think at the end we all sort of shared a similar understanding about how impactful those group discussions were for all of us, not only to hear each other's stories, but to share our own. And I think that speaks to the larger issue of social media and that its experiences are ubiquitous, but not necessarily universal. And I think it was really impactful for myself and a lot of the other teams in the series who shared similar stories. And there's some really poignant moments in the series where you can feel that probably.
So we'll follow up with some other things later. With Sue, I'd like to know, Sue Thoughts from Common Sense Media can perhaps put in perspective, what can parents do, what can children do, what are the resources that are available for people to deal with some of these more vulnerable issues that have been revealed in this series?
So thank you so much. Thanks for having us here today. Just so you all know, for context, Common Sense Media is a nonprofit organization, and we provide resources for families and for educators around a lot of these issues related to digital media and technology. And my focus is really on schools. And so similar to what Lauren did, creating a space for discussion to allow students to be able to create community around these issues and to share with each other and to get to know each other and empathize with each other over the things that they're dealing with and understand that they are not alone. That is what a lot of our curriculum does. So because not every school in the country has a Lauren available to host these discussions in a library, that's what our curriculum does, is help to create these spaces with teachers. And so by really helping teachers and educators and families to be able to have these discussions and allow their kids to be heard in a way that they need to be seen, I mean, that to me is number one, is listen to your kids. Ask these questions, and so that's where we begin today, and so that's why we're so thankful for this film and allowing parents to understand that these are issues that kids need to be heard about, and they do want to share, and they do want to be seen, and they do want you to understand. I think that's what strikes me throughout this whole film, is really the need for students to be able to be listened to.
Do you guys have any reaction to that?
Maybe you don't agree.
No, I'm curious.
No, I agree. I think having an open discussion is the biggest way, like educating yourself and your children, and letting your children educate you too, and knowing that there's a lot that's going on that parents may not know about, and I think learning and making sure you're learning about it is the most important way to help your kids, honestly. Having open and honest discussions, which this sparks, is so important, and that's really the only way to combat it, because they're going to be on social media. You should be talking to them about it.
Are all of you still on social media?
And I think a lot of their parents discovered things from the show. Like there were things that they didn't tell them until they were on the show, or maybe.
Oh, tell us about that. Go down the line. What kind of confrontations did you have with your parents?
My mom's actually here today, so she's right there. I had to prep my parents before watching the show. I was like, and you guys have seen the first episode. It gets worse.
So 4 is the
3 and 4.
Yeah.
But I do think that what is so valuable about Lauren's storytelling is that it's very it's honest, and we were also vulnerable, and I applaud all of my fellow students who were so vulnerable into giving their phones and their stories. And Lauren really captured authenticity in this digital age, and I think just being honest and showing the good as well as the bad is what made this so profound.
Anyone else? Marley?
Yeah, I think I wasn't super nervous about showing my parents, but I think there was definitely some hesitation with just the topics being talked about in general, because it's like, okay, well, even though I was in film doing it, maybe, you surround yourself with these types of people. And so I was kind of having to talk to them and have conversations this is how it was for me, this is how it was for me growing up, because I wasn't talking to them about my social media usage, or if I was talking to a boy or not. I wasn't telling them any of that. I was just kind of living my life and then letting them just assume that my life is great. And so I definitely had to sit them down and be okay, you guys are gonna see some harsh stuff, but just know we can have a conversation about it.
Yeah, I found actually it was kind of more during the filmmaking process, because my parents were like, why is Lauren interested? What's going on? And so I found that I kind of opened up during the filmmaking process and kind of told them and was pretty honest about what was going on and just kind of everything. So there wasn't anything necessarily new to it within the documentary, but again, it was showing the extremes that I didn't say or didn't even think about to say, and then it was oh yeah, that was going on for all of us, all my friends, everyone I knew, everyone. And so showing those extremes, then my parents were oh, I didn't realize how extreme it gets.
Jonathan?
Yeah, similarly, I think. Can you hear me?
Oh no, is everything died? I know, clearly.
There we go. I think I've also, growing up, had a very transparent, open relationship with my parents, but I think this show also revealed a lot to them. It also revealed a lot for me, and I think most of us as well can say that we learned something from the show, and I think that's why it's so important that it gets into the homes of families and teenagers and schools, is because of the topics that are discussed and the extremes that are shown on screen.
Well, even when they watched it, they learned stuff about each other. There's only one part that they share with each other, and I remember one of Sydney's teachers came to the premiere, and she said Sydney was my student and she knew Jack too, and she had no idea any of this was going on. And yeah, I think that they were so brave, but I also just want to acknowledge the parents, and there are a bunch of parents here tonight. They were so amazing the way we traipsed into their homes with lots of people. And I think, Ella, your dad said to me last week, he still expects to open the bathroom door and see me sitting in there with a monitor.
Well, one of the things, one of my favorite moments, though, you ask them, did you talk about this stuff with your parents? And they went, no, they all said no. That was a round chorus of no. So I want to follow up, Jonathan. You were making a movie during the movie, and you were sharing it with her. Explain the logistics of that.
Yeah, so my senior year of high school, sort of early on in the filming process with Lauren, I shared a rough idea of a project I wanted to complete over the course of my senior year of high school. And so throughout the series, it's sort of a parallel film that Lauren follows me making, right? Sydney and Jordan and some of the other teens in the series about similar issues, because there were issues that were important to me as well. In my time at Teen Line, I didn't encounter them, and it was something I wanted to show from a teen perspective too.
So Lauren, I'd like to know from you, how every documentary starts in one place and finishes in another. Talk about how you set out to do one thing and ended up following other things.
Yeah, I mean, there were certain things that I knew were gonna be the case. Like I wanted to have the phone content be a part of the story, and I wanted to follow this group for 1 year. But I didn't know the group discussions were gonna be part of the series. That was one thing that I just kind of started for my own research and then saw how much they were excited to talk to each other, and how for a lot of them it was the first time they were hearing other young people going through the same issues, that they had felt that they were alone before. And they hadn't talked about it in that serious way. They might have looked at social together or done a TikTok together, but they hadn't deconstructed how it was affecting their lives in deep ways until we got into these groups. So that was very exciting because I wanted to show that the issues were universal, but I didn't want to be repetitive as a filmmaker and hear, 3 stories about eating disorders, 4 stories about suicidal ideation. And so we started that silent clapping in the beginning, and that really allowed me and them to see that other people could identify with them and then kind of go off into the storytelling from there. And then the other thing that was surprised me was the group had its own arc. It was in episode 4, which is the sex episode, and we kind of learned that the new sex education is social media and pornography, and we hear about some of the violent trends, like the BDSM trend and the choking trend, and in the same episode, we hear about violence between peers, and it's a very tough conversation. And one girl recounts a story of rape by another student, and Sydney then reaches out to that girl, Sophia, and says, I had a similar incident with the same person. And it was just one of those totally unexpected but so moving moments. And also the way they supported each other was just really incredible. And I think there were a couple other examples of this. Teen Line, where Jonathan worked and Cooper and Dominic worked, and also Anthony being a vigilante and standing up for some of the girls who had had sexual assault, and also some of the kids who had experienced racism. And I think in all of those cases, it was almost like the adults were in their own world and didn't really know what the kids needed, and so they were stepping in and helping each other.
Jonathan, you were part of that. You were helping to get that data out so that the kid was barred for, I'm blowing the punchline, I guess, but has everyone seen it by now? Have all of you seen that? You just watched it. So you haven't seen all the episodes, though. I don't want to blow anything. Okay, I'll leave it. They may want to go home and watch the rest of it.
The only thing I'll add to that is I think that moment where we're trying to get Anthony's data shows just how much data these companies have and how hard it is to access, even if it's your own. I think that's an important point that comes across in the series as well.
Yeah, it's true. Let's see. Here. So I'm curious about how you, Sue, would react to this kind of idea of vigilante response, and the fact that the kids don't feel like they're the adults and the police and the institutions are actually there for them.
I think part of what we do is at Common Sense is we not only do this curriculum that I mentioned that we provide to schools across the country and parent resources. We do a lot of advocacy. and we do a lot of legislation on behalf of kids and their families to try to make sure that we are doing things like holding our platforms accountable for making sure that they are able to, provide the protection to our students that they need, right? Because who is standing up for our students, and who is standing up for the kids across America? And when it comes to advocacy, that is one thing that we need our families to become involved in, is understanding the legislation and the potential impact it has to protect our kids when it comes to things like social media and technology. So if that is something that you as a parent are interested in receiving more information about, we have our table outside, and you are welcome to stop by and pick up some information about the ways in which we advocate for kids. And we always need the help of parents to be able to speak on behalf of your kids who are experiencing these things. Because it isn't until we share these stories, until we have people who are able and willing to stand up for our kids against a lot of these platforms who are holding this information, that we can actually make change. So that is a big part of what we do at Common Sense.
And one of the things that was really exciting for us is me and a few of the students went up to Sacramento and got to talk to senators and assemblymen last 2 weeks ago about their experience and connected to their phones free schools free phones free school act. And that's been really exciting. We've been going to schools, high schools and universities, and I think for them to have a chance to connect with other students has been really meaningful. And I know there's some schools here. We made a curriculum which Jonathan worked on, and it really ties, it's a good companion for the show and using in schools and in promoting media literacy. And so that's a tool that's free through Annenberg Foundation, through Annenberg Learner.
So, so you all said that you're still on social media. One moment, again, Jonathan, you had a good line where you said that the only thing that's going to fix all of this is you guys are going to figure it out. How to be people. That seems something along, I may be paraphrasing.
Yeah, I mean, I think for all of us who are digital natives, who have grown up in this world where we have everything at our fingertips, it's really hard to be separated from it. Cooper talks about it in the series, how it's hard to interact with people and connect with people and socialize if you aren't on social media, if you aren't on your phone. And so I think it's about finding that balance. I don't think it's something that will go away, but I think there's room to find that personal balance, but also for lawmakers and tech companies to really make meaningful change as well.
So go down the line, everyone. What do you think are the solutions, and is TikTok the real problem, specifically?
I don't think that we can pinpoint it on a specific app. I think that we are in this digital age, and that's just something that we need to accept, and it's about learning about how, instead of not posting things, learning how to live with, yes, this is online, I posted this, and just having a support group. What was so helpful about the group sessions was really knowing that we were all in this together, and none of us, we didn't really know each other's stories until the show actually came out, but we had a lot of the same opinions, and we realized how similar we were, going through the same things. This is a universal problem. A lot of people have asked, is this just a specifically LA-based show? Is it? And I mean, a lot of the elements are heightened, it taking place in LA, but I do think that a lot of the issues that the show addresses are universal, and this could happen at a small school, at a big school. And so just finding those support groups.
Yeah, I don't necessarily think that TikTok is the only app that's obviously the problem, but it is definitely the most addictive. I could spend probably hours on TikTok.
It's the most addictive app.
Yeah, the most addicting, for sure. But I do think it is about balance. And I know Lauren and I were talking last week, and she was like, well, it's not up to us to create the balance. That's unfair, which yes, it is unfair, but we have had to grow up in this time. So I'm yeah, I have to learn how to have my BS radar on and watch a video and be okay, this is going to trigger me, and how to then react to that. But it's skills that I've had to grow and learn how to do, and it's definitely something that generations before us did not have to do.
Yeah, I fully agree with both what they said. TikTok is definitely the most addictive, and it is like an addiction. Like you're just constantly looking. It's like a dopamine hit. And I think how we had to grow and had to learn and teach ourselves, hopefully we then teach the generations before us so they don't have to go through that like extreme just to get like perspective on it, because how I use social media now is so different from how I did when I was 16, and I'm still learning, but I have more perspective and I use it with more intention. But as you get older, that'll come with it. But kids are allowed on it unrestricted, way too young, and that's not on them to restrict themselves, but that again needs to be a discussion and parents talking to kids. And it's not like preaching abstinence, because that's just not possible or feasible. Instead, it's teaching them about the dangers, similar to sex education, honestly. Is it just
That's what I'm thinking. What happened to sex education?
Yeah, you need to just standardize like social media education, honestly, in the same way, because it has the same like parallels.
Social media education, I like it. So how did you pick these kids? I mean, part of what a documentarian does is pick your subjects.
I did about 200 mini interviews in the spring of 21 before we started, and then we did a little kind of test in the spring, which Sydney was a part of, and Ella was also a part of. And then I chose them, and they also chose me, because these guys are extraordinary, and not every kid is gonna choose to have their phones open to everyone. But it was a process. Actually, Jonathan helped me with some of the selection, because he was making his film, and he introduced me to kids at Teen Line and kids that he knew from, I guess, mostly from Teen Line. And it also developed organically, where we began with a group, but then I would meet a sibling or a friend. So I would say it was intuitive and not scientific, but on the other hand, I did know I wanted a diverse group of kids, and not just diverse socioeconomically, but also diverse in terms of their relationships with social media, their use of social media, their background. Oh, one important thing. There's several other young people here from the show that I want to introduce. Will you guys stand? There's Julie. 5-6 feet are the prints. One of them has over 600 lips of the Kylie Jenner lip challenge on TikTok. And we're also making a museum show that's going to open in Berlin next fall. And actually, Ella's going to help me with one of the installations in the museum show that's going to be a recreation of her bedroom. Jonathan is helping me with another installation in the museum show. And so we're kind of making this 2,000 hours of archive, working with it in different ways that are experiential and monumental.
On that note, thank you all very much.